How do you go from marketing guesswork to consistently generating high returns for your roofing business? In this episode, Joseph Hughes shares his insights on how contractors can take control of their marketing and stop spraying and praying for results. Joseph Hughes is the founder of Contractor Dynamics, a marketing training company that empowers roofing contractors to master their own marketing. With over a decade of experience, Joseph has helped countless businesses demystify and optimize their marketing strategies. Joseph's focus on teaching instead of doing shows his commitment to equipping contractors with the tools they need to thrive, making him an indispensable voice in the industry. Today's episode is packed with actionable strategies to measure and maximize your marketing ROI. Let's get started with Joseph Hughes. Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast. I'm Jim Aline, and I'm here to bring you insights from top leaders in the roofing industry to help you grow and scale your roofing business. The infamous Joseph Hughes.
Infamous. Whoa, all right. That's a curveball.
Let's start it off that way, Joe. I love what you do in the industry. Love having you on. We've talked a lot over the years. For those that don't know Joseph Hughes, I'm pretty sure our whole audience knows you. But what's a little update? What's an update on Joseph Hughes and Contractor Dynamics?
Cool. Real quick, Contractor Dynamics, marketing training company for the roofing industry. So what we do all day, every day, is we have an amazing team. And we are training roofing companies on how to run their own marketing, how to take control of their own marketing. So in contrast to a lot of marketing agencies that do the work for you, we are training you on teaching you how to fish. We're not selling you the fish. So I've been in business 11 years. It makes me feel kind of old, but we're still kind of like that, it's startup mindset where we're continually learning and growing, and we added a bunch of people to our team last month. So we've got an awesome new sales guy, Kevin. We've got a awesome new integrator, COO, Steve, a new copywriter. We added a coach to our team last month. So yeah, as we kind of finish up 2024, we're getting our new team members on board. Trying to, it's always an interesting time of year for a business owner because you're focusing on the now and finishing up the year strong. Then you have an eye toward next year. So you're kind of like 1 foot in this year, 1 foot in next year, trying to do both and just trying to keep everything afloat and thriving. So yeah, learning and growing literally every day, and blessed to have an amazing leadership team of people overall at CD. So yeah, I'm excited to step more into the visionary role now that we have our new integrator in place, step more into that visionary role in 2025 and kind of just continue to evolve.
Yeah, business is an evolution. Like it never stops iterating, right? And I think we have to fall in love with that iteration if we're going to do this for the long term, right? If we want to be successful for the long term, it's just always that iteration, always the next thing that you need, that you get to learn and implement in the business, right? It's always a lot of fun. I mean, you've been in the marketing space for a long time. We came up knowing each other in the marketing space. I wanted to talk to you because I think that a lot of contractors struggle with maximizing the results of their marketing. And so let's start with that. How do you maximize the results or maximize your return on investment from your marketing efforts?
Man, that's not even the $1 million question, the multi-million dollar question.
Right.
Because it's so common. I'm sure everyone listening, watching is like, man, that I don't know. I really don't know. Like we're in December right now. We're recording this. Okay. I spent this amount of money on marketing this year. Maybe some people don't even know, which was me before we had our, fractional CFO who kind of like, hey, this is what you guys have been spending. I'm like, oh, wow, all that stuff adds up, $2,000 a month here, $4,000 a month there, before you know it, you're spending more money on marketing than you ever expected because there's no one like at the helm of that ship. It's just like throwing a bunch of things out there. We call it spray and pray, right? Spray a bunch of things out there, pray that like something works. And that's not a good strategy because even if something does work, like you don't know what's working and what's not. There's that old marketing saying that you probably know, Jim. It's I think it's John Wanamaker back in like, I don't know, the early 19 or the mid 1900s. He said half of my advertising spend is not working. Problem is, I'm just not sure which half. And
Yeah.
it's so true. So there's a lot that goes into that. I forget the question, man. I'll just be honest.
No, that's right. Like that, you're on the right track here, and I think that's what it is. Maximizing the return on investment of your marketing dollars really starts with understanding your marketing, right? And I think that you made a point there that was, even to that old adage of 50% of my marketing is working, but I don't know what 50% is working. And a lot of times contractors don't even know. They don't know 100% of what's working or what's not working. They don't like, and that's a big struggle. And I think that's the conversation that we wanted to have is to this, man, like first, what do good results look like? Do people even know what good results look like? You've coached a lot of contractors and helped them set up with a marketing manager in their business and worked along the way. How would you define to a contractor? Maybe we'll start on a more macro level, but like, how do we know if our marketing is working?
Man, that's great. For everything that we do, whether it's we were just talking with our CFO yesterday about this digital marketing specialist we want to hire in Q1, and he's like, okay, like what does success look like for this person, and how are you measuring it? CFO is just looking to justify every line item, right? So like, all right, well, this is what success looks like for this person. Here's how we're going to measure it. Same thing with marketing. What does success look like and how are we going to measure that? So that can come in different forms. So with marketing, some things are trackable down to the penny. Okay. So say Google ads, LSA, Facebook ads, things like that are more like direct response in nature. I put $1 in, I'm going to get $10 out, whatever that equation might be. Then there's other things that are more qualitative. I'm running brand awareness, social media ads. We're doing direct mail. We have our trucks wrapped. We have our community event. We're sponsoring the Little League team. We're radio, TV, billboards, you name it. There's some of those things that aren't like attributable to a particular lead, right? So Mrs. Jones calls in, hey, how'd you hear about us? I don't know. I see you guys everywhere in the neighborhood. I've been living in the area for a while. It's not like she clicked on this particular Facebook ad. So I'm interested to hear your feedback on that too. So there's that quantitative, like, yes, there's that dollar and cents ROI, but then there's also that qualitative return, which is like, okay, we're having warmer appointments, which means our close rate is higher because people have seen us over and over and we're not just any old roofing contractor in Minneapolis. Our close rate's higher. We're getting beat up on price less. Our average gross profit is higher. We're getting more referrals, more reviews, things like that. So those are qualitative in nature, which is why you need to be looking at everything on a regular basis. We get into tracking in a little bit. So how do you measure that? It's going to be your overall at the end of the quarter, end of the year. It's like, hey, what did we spend in terms of marketing for this year? And that's going to be your people, that's going to be your offline stuff, your swag, your truck wraps, your yard signs, your online marketing. What do we spend in total? What was our revenue? Is that within our acceptable range of what we want to spend? And we can get into particular numbers there. So you have to look at it like on a micro level in terms of like the leads that you generated, but also like as a team on that more macro level. And then, did we open up new opportunities from our marketing, like more, relationships with realtors or insurance agents or GCs or, whatever else is important to you, other people that can feed you business. And marketing is also a key player in terms of recruiting and attracting talent. So how many people do we need to hire next year? How is our marketing going to play into that? So if you're going to use your marketing to attract $1 million sales rep, well, you want to make sure you do a good job at your marketing, be intentional about that, because you're not just marketing for a $20,000 roof. Like you're marketing for someone that's going to produce $1 million in revenue. That's marketing as well.
There's so many things, right? And this is I think the core of it first is that people don't even know what to expect from their marketing sometimes. And I think that if you don't know what success looks like, you have a hard time making good decisions as to what you should be doing. I always think that, like, if you don't know, you have to guess at first, right? Like if you're newer to a marketing channel, say Facebook ads or something like that, man, you're gonna have to guess as to what a successful lead cost might be, or customer acquisition cost, or long-term value of that customer. So in setting up, let's talk a little bit about that, like those getting set up to understand if this is really what should we be doing or not, right? Like if you don't, like what you had said, let's go back and see what we spent over the quarter and did it work. That would be a lagging indicator, right? Maybe let's look at some things that we can look at as leading indicators, and maybe some decisions that people would need to make. So I think first off is like, hey man, do you know what an acceptable customer acquisition cost would be? Like maybe they start there. Do you think that's a good starting point? Is there a different place that they could start?
Yeah, the acquisition cost is fantastic. Even a step before that is getting clarity on who is my ideal client, what's my ideal project, right? And what is that in terms of so my ideal project is an asphalt roof replacement. I'm in New Jersey, so the average ticket's going to be $20,000, right? Like that's our ideal project. Our ideal client is that, that couple in their 40s they're busy. They don't have a lot of time. They have money to spend. They appreciate value. They're not looking for the cheapest guy, looking for a great experience. So we have our ideal client, our ideal project, that $20,000 asphalt shingle replacement. Our gross profit on that is, you name it, 12 grand, just say, round number. So our average gross profit's 12. What are we willing to, what's our acceptable range for like what we're willing to pay to acquire one of those roofs, right? So you're going to have to find your range from there. So yeah.
I love that you said range.
Yeah.
I love that you said range, because I always have put a dollar amount on it, but I love that there's a range, because there really is a range, right? And I want everyone listening to understand that the least amount possible is not an acceptable range.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, that's not acceptable. Do not say as the least amount possible. That's what I want to pay for a customer. That's what I want my customer acquisition cost to be. Really what is, man, if we're at $600 to acquire a customer, boy, we're doing really good, right? But if we get up to $1,200, now it starts to get a little, we got to make some decisions, right? Like, so that I love the idea of the range, man. That's a good point for everyone to think about.
Well, yeah, two things there. One of the ratios that we track in our company is CAC to LTV. So that's customer acquisition cost to a lifetime gross profit. So, and for us, it's a little different because we're kind of a recurring business model. But like as a contractor, what is that customer acquisition cost as a percentage of that value, that gross profit of 12 grand? You could use a benchmark of like 4-to-1. So in that case, you'd be willing to pay maybe up to $3,000 to get a $12,000 gross profit roof. Again, 20,000 top line. Just kind of rough numbers. It's going to have to make sense for you and your business, and talk to your CFO and things like that. But like understanding what that benchmark looks like for you. And if you're over that 4-to-1 ratio, great, because you're spending less to acquire a customer. If you're under that, then you're going to spend too much on that. And then Jim, what you said is like so many people, I guess when you don't understand marketing, you kind of view it as an expense, right? Like a cost center. Like how little can I spend on marketing this year? How can we drop our marketing spend? But that's kind of the wrong mindset. And I'm not just saying that like spend more money with Contractor Dynamics or anything like that, but it's like, if you want to scale, if you want to grow your company from 5 to 8 million, like marketing is going to be a lever, and you got to understand how to use that lever. So you can say, yeah, we're going to increase our marketing spend next year because we want to grow by 60%, which is a big jump from 5 to 8 million. What do we need to do more of? Like, and if you don't understand what's working, you can't scale that. Right. So, I think that's a mindset thing a lot of contractors have.
Definitely. I was in the real estate and mortgage industry for many years, and I met this realtor in the mid 2000s out in Denver who had come from a different profession and was just starting their real estate career. Mm-hmm. And they had a little bit of money to invest in their marketing, and they bought every Zillow zip code. So all of the leads in all of the Zillow zip codes in the northern metro area of Denver. This was an aha moment for me, Joe. I was like, wait, you're doing what? With the intention that they knew that homeowners move every 5 to 7 years. So the goal was to buy as many customers every year, not for what they made in profit on them that year, for what they will make in profit on them in the future. And I was like, whoa. Yeah. There's not many people that'll do that, right? Like you really, truly, the way I put it is if you have faith in the outcome, you'll execute, right? Like, and so if you don't have faith, like that individual had faith that they would, but it was faith in their execution. It was faith that they would continue to follow up and make that homeowner continue to know that they're the realtor of choice, right? When, they're not just going to do the transaction and then move on and never talk to them again, right? They wanted to build a long-term relationship with that person. And now not only might that person move in 5 to 7 years, their neighbor might be moving. Their cousin might want to buy or sell a house, right? Like there's such a long-term value out of customers that I think if you don't have that long-term vision, boy, it's hard, right?
Yeah.
If I told you, Joe, man, if you invested $1 million this year, that 10 years from now, you would have a $50 million business. Like, I think everyone would, with great profit margins. Let's add that caveat in for all the haters, all the commenters on YouTube, right? Like this, like if someone told you, if you really made this investment, but you had to execute on all of the little things along the way, would you really do it? And so I think that comes down to that CAC LTV conversation is, man, if you really have faith in the outcome of your people, if you know that your sales reps, I've had this conversation on some RSRA calls recently. I was talking to one owner who he has 3 or 4 sales reps, and one of his sales reps, he knows that if that sales rep goes out to a neighborhood, if they get one job in the neighborhood, that guy's getting 5, 4 or 5 right away. Right off of that one neighbor. And because of the faith in that one individual, boy, you can pour marketing dollars at that person. Now he has that don't ask as well for those referrals. It's harder to pour money into those reps, right? Like, so the long-term value might be a little bit different between your sales reps too. So knowing your business well is probably a good thing. I know I kind of rambled on there, but I guess, that leads me to like how much of an investment should a company make in marketing, right? When they're making that educated guess as to what the outcome might be.
Sure. I love that you talked about the referral thing. That was on my mind as well. Like if you know that for every job you get, you're going to get 1.2 referrals from every customer, then that lowers that customer acquisition cost. So yeah, awesome point there. As far as like how much should you spend?
Invest. Let's not say spend, right? Let's talk about investing in marketing.
You caught me. Yes.
We still do it ourselves, and we know, and we stuff, right?
One of our core values is that we're impeccable with our words. So thanks for making me impeccable. So if you Google that question, and Jim, I know you have a lot of experience with this too. Your answer may vary, but I'm the guest, so I'm right. So no,
for sure.
So if you Google it, how much, what should my marketing spend be per, as a percentage of revenue? You're going to find like 5 to 8, percent in maintain mode, 10% and over if you want to really grow. And I think like a lot of maybe, greedy marketing professionals will be like, yeah, you got to spend, 10% plus, especially if they're getting paid on a percentage of your ad spend, which a lot of agencies of record will do, right? So you got to be aware of those incentives. Margins in contracting and roofing are great. Should you spend 10%? I don't believe so. Our clients are more on an average of like 5%. The caveat there is that they're investing time into their marketing. So it's not just like, hey, I'm a roofing company owner. I know marketing is important. I don't want to figure it out. I'm too busy. I'm just going to pay Jim to like make magic happen. Right. So if that's your mentality, yes, you're going to overspend because you're trying to pay your way out of your marketing problem. You're not taking ownership of it. And like, you've got to take ownership of it. In no other, I don't know, we don't work in other industries outside roofing, but like in no other industry is there such a widespread belief that like, hey, I'm just going to put my customer acquisition in the hands of someone else. Like, I'm not going to take ownership of that. It's just, it's amateur hour. And I get passionate about it because I see people just like, it's just an education moment. Like, you got to take ownership of that, like your ability to generate customers. So 5% of your target revenue allocate toward marketing, and then you're investing time in it. You're creating content. You're creating a marketing plan. You're creating a marketing budget. You have someone in-house who's helping you with marketing or in charge of that marketing. So it's this time plus money investment. It's not just a money investment.
For sure. I think, let's call it the easy button, Joe. I coach about 35 agency owners that are all in different niches.
Cool.
And I'll tell you, it's very similar from type of business to type of business, from vertical to vertical, from niche to niche. I think it's a small business thing.
Okay, good.
I heard a friend of mine was on a podcast recently, and I heard her talking about how those were some of her challenges early on in business as she was looking for the easy button.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what happens, right? I think that's what we're actually doing because business is hard.
Yeah.
Right? Like, all of it is hard. Sales is hard. Production is hard. Like, all of it is hard. Managing cash flow is hard.
Yeah.
Like, all of these things are, so we always look for an easy button. And marketers are probably the best at, marketing agencies are probably better at marketing the easy button than an accounting firm, right? That might help you, like a fractional CFO or something like that. Like, but we're always looking for that easy button.
That's true. Totally. Yeah. And actually, that was the example I was going to use, Jim. We've worked with I think we're on our third fractional CFO. We've been through like bookkeeping companies and things like that. Bookkeeping companies, cool. There's a lot of them. Fractional CFOs, we tried a couple over the past couple of years. And now we have our Rob, who's amazing. He's great. Like, he's the best one we've had, and we're going to be with him long term. However, a big reason why it's working out so well is that I've never been more involved in it, right? Like, I meet with Rob every Tuesday. We're texting, we're calling. Like, it's top of mind all the time. We run all our decisions by him. In the past, when I was not as, I just didn't develop that skill set. I didn't know I needed to be involved, and the bookkeeping and the financial aspect of things. Even though I have a finance degree from college, which means basically nothing, right? Because you don't learn anything until you get out in the real world and really get your teeth kicked in. But like, I just kind of treat it as an afterthought. Like, oh yeah, whenever, like, I'm just going to procrastinate until the deadline, and then I'll do whatever needs to get done and get off my plate and go back to creating content, And it's the same thing with marketing. Like, you've got to be involved in it. And there is no easy button. And sometimes
trust but verify, right? Like, it makes me think of that trust but verify.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not paying attention, like just something simple, right? If you're not paying attention and you're just hoping, that's where things go off the rails, right? And we had that from an agency side of things. There was a company that we were working with, and their Facebook ads seemed to be really going well. Lots of leads coming through, things happening. And then, like 6 months later, they paid attention, and they were like, these things suck. And we're like, man, but wait, you're just telling us this now? Like we've been like, it looked like because we didn't have a viewpoint all the way through close in their company, right? And they weren't creating that feedback loop of communication of, hey, we received these leads, these ones were good, these ones, we set appointments on those, we closed those from last week, there wasn't a good feedback loop. And without that good feedback loop, your fractional CFO can't help you make adjustments on the, as you're going along. If if you're not talking to your production manager on a regular basis, right? Like you're probably going to run into some issues, right? Like if you're not talking to your sales team and they're just out in the field doing whatever, you're going to have problems. So I love that concept, right? Like, so now let's get into that a little bit. Like, what should people know? Because it makes me think of, like, I did a fair amount of real estate investing and from 08 to 13 and buying foreclosed properties and fixing them up. And I GC'd all my own projects. And on every house in the beginning, every house that I did, I learned a trade. So I did drywall in one, which sucks. Don't do drywall, Joe. If you haven't done drywall, don't do drywall. It's the worst thing ever. Painting is terrible. I hate painting. I really realized plumbing. I've done electrical. I've done so many trades, but I didn't do them because I wanted to learn the trade and become good at the trade. I learned it so that I knew what I was paying for. I think that there's a gap there. That in small business ownership and with roofing contractors included in that, right, is that we have a gap of knowledge. And instead of learning enough to have an intelligent conversation, to be able to verify those results, we're kind of leaving it up to, we're just pushing it off. We're trying to hit that easy button. How do you guys train the contractors that work with you or their marketing managers? What are some of the skill sets that they need to learn to be effective at measuring their marketing results?
That's a perfect setup, Jim. And so if you had this house that you bought and you were flipping it and you said to all these, some contractor buddies that you had, hey guys, show up on December 15th. Here's the address and do your thing. Just do your thing. Call me when it's done. They're going to do something, right? A bunch of guys running around, like they're going to do something, but like the chances of it coming out well or coming out as you had envisioned are very, very small. But like awesome that you went through that whole process to learn like, okay, well, here's how long it takes to frame a house or drywall or paint or do the rough electrical, whatever that is, so that you knew how to collaborate with them. And when they were taking 9 days to do a 2-day job, you could be like, hey, bro, I know that's not a 9-day job. Like, let's have a conversation about it. Same thing with marketing, right? Roofing company owner, contracting company owners, like, all right, great. Like, I'm willing to spend money on marketing. Cool. I'm going to hire the Facebook ads guy. I'm going to hire this guy to do the website. I'm going to hire this guy to do direct mail. We need a Google thing. Oh yeah, this guy called me about some billboards. They have a special. I signed up for some billboards. Okay. Now you have this roofing company owner who's hired all these effectively like the marketing subcontractors, but he doesn't know what he just paid for. He doesn't know how to measure the results. He doesn't know what to expect in terms of like, okay, SEO should take, a long time. Whereas Google ads, you could probably get results, pretty quickly. He doesn't really know any of that. So our whole model or one of our big education points is that you as the contracting company need to be the general contractor of your own marketing. Just like Jim was GCing those houses that he was flipping, you need to be the GC. So you don't need to know how to pull all the levers and turn all the dials, but you do need enough to know. And this, by the way, meaning you as the roofing company owner, it might be you, or it might be someone inside your company that's an in-house marketing coordinator that is doing some of the work. Like maybe you're self-performing some of that work and then you're subbing some of it out. But like that person inside your company, ideally it's not the owner because the owner's running around doing a million things. It's an in-house marketing coordinator that is creating the game plan, creating the marketing strategy, creating the budget, hiring the subs, meeting with them regularly, holding them accountable, reviewing reports, reviewing the work that was done, making strategy adjustments, and really driving that ship. So that concept of being the general contractor of your own marketing doesn't mean that you can't hire a marketing agency. Yes, certainly hire those subs, right? because you can't do everything yourself, but like you understand that you have control over that. Everything's being done in alignment with like your vision and your brand. And, if you're a company that's really focused on like, that kind of premium brand and you want to sell on value and you're not the cheapest guy, but then you hire the Facebook ads guy and he's putting out these crummy ads that are like $1,000 off your next roof or, $6,000 roof, guaranteed. Like, does that align with like the brand that you want to build? Probably not. So that's a whole other part of it, is controlling that brand messaging. But yeah, being the general contractor of your own marketing, someone in addition, other than the owner, should be, if you're a small company, maybe that's a spouse, an office admin who's spending 10 hours a week on marketing, whatever that is for you. As you grow into that multi-million-dollar company, look to hire that full-time in-house marketing person that's really going to drive that ship. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I love the idea of just send all the subs out on the same day and see what happens, right? Like, you didn't pick carpet, you didn't pick paint colors, you didn't tell them, no, we're gonna take this wall out and open up the living space. We didn't say this is what flooring goes in the kitchen, this is what goes in the bathroom. Like, that's a great analogy in how this should work. You said a couple of things there about hiring a marketing person or having someone on your team that like, this is their job, right? They own this metric on your scorecard, if we want to throw it in EOS terms, right? Like, someone has to own the metric. And if it is you, it's just like everything else. You want to be working your way out of those seats if that's not your core competency, right? One thing you said was part-time. I think a lot of people forget that you can hire someone part-time sometimes, right? Like, you don't have to hire a full-time $80,000 a year, marketing, and I don't know what marketing managers, salaries are usually. Maybe you could speak to that a little bit too, of what you're seeing in the marketplace. But man, you might be able to just hire someone 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, like to just do certain tasks, make sure the social media is going out consistently, throwing some ideas around, and then measuring what how your SEO is progressing and how your Facebook ads are doing, or what. Like, I think that's a great nugget for people, is that we always look at hiring full time, but if you're in earlier stages, you might be able to just get that part-time person to come on in. What would be the different levels of a marketing manager, and what type of compensation ranges are you seeing for them?
Yeah, thanks, Jim, for opening people's eyes to that part. That's so scary, especially as a younger company, and that might be your first hire. We have a prospective client who was kind of going through that, and he was really just really hesitating. And finally, I asked him, like, "Hey, man, would this be your first ever like W-2 employee hire?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, now I get why like you're so hesitant about everything," which is completely normal, because like taking on overhead, especially like going into the winter, like, dude, that's scary. Regardless of whatever size business you're at, your larger business, you want to hire higher level people. Like, at the beginning of this thing, I said we brought on a few higher level people in November. That's scary. That's increased overhead, right? So totally, we're right there with you. So yeah, if you're under say $3 million a year, that part-time person might make sense. We've had clients that hire, their kid who's in college or just graduated college, or we've had one client, actually, she was on our webinar this morning. This guy hired his mom. His mom is retired, and she's doesn't want a full-time job, but she, works, 15 hours a week or whatever that is. That could be an office admin person. I don't advise that, because when that office admin person gets busy in the spring, their priority is always going to be answer the phone, send out contracts, collect money, which their priority should be those things, right? Marketing is going to fall to the bottom of that. We've seen it over and over. So someone that is dedicated to marketing, someone's waking up every day and thinking about, hey, how are we going to get more people to know about our company today than knew about us yesterday? And that person doesn't need to be a marketing guru by any means. That person needs to be core value aligned. That person needs to be coachable. They don't have an ego. They're not territorial, which means like if you're going to work with a marketing agency, they're not going to like be like, I know how to do this better than you do. We've seen that. Someone that's really open and aligned with that mission. So, whatever that means for your area of the country, if that's an hourly thing, I don't really do hourly. I don't know what the rates might be, but figure out what makes sense. And then from a full time, anywhere between like that $50,000 and $80,000 range per year, depending on again where you are in the country. You don't need someone that knows all the marketing things. Like that person's going to be a unicorn. They're going to be running their own company. They're going to be super expensive. You want someone, I generally say younger. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but someone younger has a little bit of marketing experience, getting coachable. And then that person can also be, if you're like, all right, well, I don't think I have enough marketing for like a full-time person. Well, that person can be also your business development person that's going to your BNI meetings or Chamber of Commerce meetings. They're meeting with realtors, meeting with insurance agents, going to the networking events in town. As the owner, like kind of like Jim said, you need to kind of fire yourself from some of those things so you can focus on being the leader. So a lot of times our clients will utilize that hybrid model where it's like a marketing coordinator / like community relations person. And they become the face of your business. So that's a really attractive option as well. And then you can compensate that person with like a base plus like some kind of performance pay.
I think it's a good point what you said about if you get someone on your team that says, well, I could do this better than the company you hire, you're not looking for someone in most cases to do the work, to do the SEO, to run your ads, maybe running some Facebook ads or something like that, but maybe not your Google ads, because to me, it's a very specific skill set.
Yes, for sure.
And so, but one of the things that we always had, the times we had friction with marketing managers at Roofer Marketers was when the marketing manager felt that they needed to justify their existence. And so I would recommend that in your company culture that they don't have to feel like they'll get fired if the agency is underperforming or overperforming. Their job is to measure the metrics and help to determine and to help create that good feedback loop with the people that you hire to do some of those things. Like I said, if no one's monitoring what the results of some of these performance-based advertising efforts are, that's a problem, right? So you need someone on top of that, but creating that feedback loop helps the people that you hire in those roles to develop better campaigns, to optimize campaigns, to do all of those things. So I think it's a company culture thing and making sure that they don't feel worried about their job in these scenarios. Those were always the friction moments for us. And I don't know if you could think back to your agency days. It's been a while now, but like that to me seems like when there's an adversarial relationship, and I would assume that if you have an adversarial relationship with your subs, that probably creates friction too. Right? Like it's the adversarial relationship with the partners that you create in your business it's not the way to go into a relationship. It's not the best relationships.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we see that, right? So we provide marketing training. So we might be talking with a prospective client who's a roofing company. They have an in-house marketing manager, marketing coordinator. And then, we might get on that sales call and you could see like the marketing coordinator is a little bit like territorial, defensive, like, well, I don't need Contractor Dynamics because I'm the marketing person. I know everything. They don't say that, but you get that vibe.
Get the vibe, yeah.
And that comes down to, that's a bigger, more macro kind of issue as far as like, you have the right person that's aligned with your values, aligned with like the vision of where the company's going. Because if he or she is going to be offensive like that and territorial, then they're going to hold back your growth. So yeah, that's a kind of different.
Within your culture, have a culture of continuous improvement, and for the that, some of the relationships might work out, might not. You may use a new subcontractor and it just doesn't work. You don't like them, right? The same way that you may hire someone to do your Facebook ads and it may not work out, but you don't want to start off in an adversarial way. So,
right. Yeah. So a concrete example of that is in our company, Sydney Carell is our marketing director. So like inside the marketing department, like I report to her, but we run on EOS. We have a scorecard. We have our marketing L10 meeting every Monday, and she brings the scorecard and she'll be like, all right, well, we were running this Facebook, and she runs the Facebook ads. So she'll be like, all right, we've been running this Facebook ad campaign for about a month now. We were trying to give it a little bit more time to see if it got some traction, but ultimately it just was not performing. Our cost per lead was, this and way above our threshold. And for that reason, I turned it off and we're going to, kind of regroup. And she's able to present that to our team and not in a way that she's like, man, I really messed up that campaign. No, it's testing. Like I recorded 10 videos yesterday at a studio here in New Jersey. We had a lot of fun. I think the videos are going to turn out like good. They're going to be part of our Facebook ad campaign for Q1. But I said in our team Slack yesterday, I'm like, I think we shot some really good videos. The market will tell us. We'll see. If they bomb, like, I'm not going to take that personally. We're just going to go back to the drawing board and see what we can learn from that for next time. So, and I think that's another point, maybe getting off topic here, but
no, I was thinking the same thing.
A lot of companies will, they'll try something like that. It won't work. And they're like, through marketing, Facebook doesn't work. Like, I'm done. I'm just going to go back to banging on doors because I know that works. Well, it's like, if you get in a car accident, it doesn't mean that like you're never going to drive again because like cars don't work the right way. Like it just, like it's that particular campaign didn't work. So yeah, just that's another point I want to make.
That's a big thing. Like the expectations of different marketing channels is something, and that marketing is not an exact science. Right. Like I remember being in college and in an economics class, and one of the things that I got from the instructor was like, yeah, economics is not an exact science. This isn't right. Like, and it's not an exact science because we can't predict consumer behavior. It's very similar in marketing, right? Like as we went through the election this year, consumer behaviors changed based on what they felt the election results may or may not be. And like there's so many things. You could have a killer Facebook ad, but if people aren't in buy mode at that time, right? It might not work out well. So have proper expectations. And I think that's back to our learning process, right? We just have to know enough, right? We have to know enough to say, okay, that's working, that's not working, when to move those dials. What are some key metrics, maybe a few key metrics that people might want to measure around just to know if things are working or not? And you could do it by marketing channel. You could do it however you would think about it.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking of like the scorecard that we help our clients. We have a few different templates depending on how sophisticated a client might be in terms of how long they've been doing marketing. But yeah, ideally by channel, right? Especially if you're doing paid ads, you're doing Google PPC, you're doing Google local service ads, Meta ads. Just let's use those as an example. You want to look at your cost per lead from each channel. And then like Jim, you said before, you want to take that lead as far as you can, right? So your cost per lead, then maybe if you're doing marketing qualified lead and then you're doing sales qualified leads. So you don't just want leads, you want sales qualified leads, whatever your qualification criteria is. So what's our cost per SQL, sales qualified lead? What's our cost per appointment? What's our cost per signed contract? What's the dollar value of those contracts that came from like Facebook ads, for example? So you might have 10 leads that came from your Facebook ad campaign. 8 of them might be sales qualified. 6 of them might be turning into appointments. Your close rate's 50%. So you're selling 3. Your average ticket's $20K. So 60 grand came from that particular ad campaign, 60 grand of revenue. Again, ideally, you're looking at gross profit. So you're looking at whatever, it's 30 grand gross profit. Just keep it simple. So you got 30 grand gross profit from, you spent $1,000 on Facebook ads. Is that within your acceptable range? Great. Like just keep running that or increase your ad spend if it's working so well. And then if it's, Google, for example, we were talking about this, I think before we hit record, you want to look at like what campaigns or what ads are actually producing those leads. So a lot of times it's very typical for a lot of marketing agencies that aren't as good as roofer marketers. Well, marketing agencies love to take credit for anything they can, and then push blame for anything they don't want to get blamed for. And I say that like kind of tongue in cheek. There's some great marketing, an awesome marketing agency can change your freaking life. Like no doubt, right. No exaggeration, like no exaggeration. But that being said, we have clients, roofing companies that'll come into our training program. And, one of the things we do is a full blown audit of everything that's going on. All right, you're spending, this is an example from this past summer, one of our roofing company clients in Orlando. You're spending $10,000 a month on Google ads. All right, let's look into that. All right, well, most of the leads that you're generating are branded searches. So in other words, people are searching for dynamic roofing as an example, and that's how they're clicking on that ad. They might see billboards, trucks, they might know you. They might be your best friend from the gym, but they're just looking for your freaking phone number. They're Googling your company name. The first result there is an ad. They don't even know that. They just click on it because they're on their phone. They're, that sort of thing. And then you're paying for that. So that your $10,000 a month, like most of the 80% of those leads are people that are already searching for you anyway. In effect, you're paying for your best friend at the gym to become a lead. So that example this summer was like, hey, why don't you try to turn off your ads for a month and see what happens? And like their lead flow did not decrease. I'm not saying that's always the case. Google ads can work extremely well if you have them dialed in and you're really like on top of them. But a lot of times, you have to look at that, like you have to get that granular to see, because your agency might be like, yeah, you generated, we got you 20 leads a month this month from Google ads. Great.
Yeah.
If 16 of them are already going to find you and call you anyway, like then your cost per lead is way higher. It's 4 times higher than you thought it would be. So
yeah, getting into those, getting granular on things, but just knowing those basic kind of things, right? Like knowing those basic kind of things. Where do you see along a contractor's, like the stages of business as they're going through maybe their startup phase, their scaling phase, their sustainability phase, as they're going into these, what marketing channels do you see or do you feel are the most important in the early stage, kind of in that scaling middle stage, and then when they're like, oh, this is where we want, we're maintaining this, $7 million company. This is where we want to be. We don't want to get any bigger or smaller than this. What marketing channels do you see as some of the most important at each of those stages?
All right, we could do a whole episode on this, but I'll try to keep it succinct. So, disclaimer, it's going to depend on your particular situation. So, yes. You might be starting up a roofing company that you have some capital. Like it's not your first rodeo. You have some money saved up. You have budget to go out and start. In more cases than not, it's the bootstrap company. Like I started bootstrap, like you don't have a ton of money to invest in a full-blown marketing strategy. So you're going to be, putting in your labor. So, and we hear this a lot, Jim, like, you'll see it in the Facebook groups, like, hey, I need who do you recommend for SEO? Or we'll even get clients who are like, hey, I need to do SEO. Who should I sign up with? And I'm like, I always like to answer a question with a question, like, why do you think that you need SEO? Like, how does that play into your marketing strategy? I think they might know a guy that crushes it with SEO, but that guy's been in business for 10 years. And, he's got like, you don't know what's below the surface. SEO, for example, takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of patience. You got to be willing to invest in it for a long time before you see that return. So SEO is something that we don't typically recommend. I mean, yes, like there's levels of everything, right? The basics, Google business profile, set up, optimized website, optimized, all that sort of thing. But should you be doing aggressive SEO from day one? I don't believe so. You can have a lot of traction by getting your face on video. So faces on video, on social media, on Facebook and Instagram primarily. And then backing your content, because if you're starting out, you don't have a lot of followers, you don't have a lot of likes on your pages and profiles, running some brand awareness ads on Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram. So take those videos of your handsome or pretty face out there on the job site and spend $10 a day on some brand awareness ads in your local 5-mile, 10-mile radius. And all of a sudden you're getting thousands of people to see your content, not just the 247 followers that you have on your Facebook page. So that's a big one. Make sure you have your, nice clean website, Google business profile dialed in. You're getting some reviews. You're getting out there on social media consistently on Facebook and Instagram, backing some of that content with some advertising dollars on Meta. Like that's a really good start. Of course, making sure that you are over delivering, providing a great client experience, earning those referrals. That's a really good start. So that could be you as the owner, your spouse, whatever that is. And then you get a little bit of traction, or that part-time marketing person to kind of just continue that. Again, you can't hire that person if you don't know what you're doing. So you got to know it, like Jim did the drywall before he hired a drywall guy. You gotta buck up and do it. You just gotta do it. There's no way around it. You just gotta do it, learn a little bit so that you can hire that person, be able to lead them, manage them, hold them accountable. And then, as you grow, I would say, again, we have clients that are doing $2 million a year that have a full-time in-house marketing manager. Generally, they're younger owners in their 20s who really understand the importance of that. But I would say more generally, you get to that, $5 million a year range, you're looking to hire that full-time in-house person. You're getting toward that $10 million range, and you have that vision again, that longer term vision. You know where you're going. I'm a big fan of hiring for where you're going, not where you're at. So you get toward that $10 million range. Maybe you look to have that full-time in-house video creative person in addition to your marketing coordinator. So now you have 2 full-time people on your team, and that's going to help you get to that next level. So there's so many nuances.
So many. Like you said, we could at least do an hour on that, right? Just on that. But
yeah, for sure.
But the core of it is to me, I think, is that the way I refer to it, Joe, is the marketing stack, right? So you start doing one thing and you then consistently do that. And then you add something to that stack, and then you add something to that stack, and then you add something. But it's not taking the other thing away, in my opinion, right? If you, unless of course it's completely off the rails, right? But you continue to build and add to this stack. So now it's the old, the how many lines in the water do you have kind of analogy, right? And the more lines you have in the water, the more consistent you'll be at that lead flow. I'd like to bring up another point for people and get your thoughts on this too, is I think sometimes the marketing channel that you're looking at may seem like it's the right thing to do. Like you said, I know a guy that crushes it in this, right? I know, I met a guy down at an event and they crush it at Facebook ads. They crush it at SEO. They crush it with billboards. They crush it with whatever. But it might not be right for your company. And I think you should look at your team. And what we were talking about off camera is an example of this is if you have a door-to-door sales team and they're knocking a fresh storm, and you get a Facebook ad lead that comes in across town or a Google ads lead that comes in across town, I don't think that sales rep is going to jump in the truck and drive across town for that. They may pretend that they did.
Yeah.
Their follow-up may not be as diligent on that lead across town because they are focused on that next door where that fresh storm is. What are your thoughts on how to use the right marketing channels for the team that you have?
Yeah, it's a great one. I would use that phrase, reverse engineer, which is just basically a fancy way of saying start with the end in mind, right? So go back to that ideal client, ideal project. What do you want? You're at 2 million, you want to grow to 5. Okay. Well, those ideal projects for you are those $20,000, shingle replacements. Where do you want to work? Geographically, where are those? You want to focus on around your office, your home? Do you want to focus on the higher end of town? Where do you want to focus your efforts? And then you're going to have sit down with your team, and it's not you're not like the dictator, right? Who's all right, I'm going into my black box. I'm going to do my planning for 2025. And this is our marketing plan. Then you're cascading it down to the team. I would say at a round table with your team and talk that out, because like you said, that buy-in is key. whether you're investing in a new CRM or, a video marketing strategy, like you have to have that buy-in from your team. And then you mentioned follow-up. Like it's not all about just getting a bunch of leads in the door. It's like, hey, how are we responding to leads ASAP? How are we following up? What's our long-term nurture with leads that someone inquires today on December 11th? Well, maybe they're not ready today, but like when they're ready in April, how are we staying top of mind so that, they're calling us automatically when they're ready to go? And so there's companies that are like, I'm just looking at our clients, like the younger companies, younger people that are like, yeah, like video, obviously I need to get my face on video. Like that's going to be our thing. We're going to crush it on video. Great. Maybe you have some other companies are like, yeah, that's not really our thing. I would challenge you on that, but maybe that's, maybe you're doing something else. Maybe you're in Dallas, Fort Worth, where it's so freaking saturated that you're going to focus more on building referral relationships with commercial property owners or realtors or other people that are spheres of influence for you. And so the way I look at it is like, here's our ideal client, our ideal prospect. Like, what do they need to see and believe before they reach out to us to feel comfortable enough to say, hey, Jim, I want you guys to come out and do an inspection or, look at my roof, right? What do they need to see? They're going to need to see your brand 10, 15 times before they feel comfortable enough to reach out to you. What do you want them to believe about your company? You're not the cheapest guy. You're not the low price guy. You're going to be more expensive. You're not going to be the most expensive, but you might be, in that 70th percentile, right? They're going to pay a little bit more for a great experience. So, and then how can you get that content out in front of them? Like 90% of the buying decision is made before a person reaches out to a company for the first time. So what kind of questions are they asking? Do they want to see an instant roof quote tool on your website? So all these different questions, but it all starts with like, who is our ideal client and what do they need to see and believe in order to feel comfortable enough to reach out to us? And then you just backfill from there. So it's not easy. Sorry, guys. Like it's not the easy button, but it's worth it because very few companies are going to do that work.
Very few will do that work. Awesome. Joseph Hughes, it's been a pleasure. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Thank you for tuning into the Roofing Success Podcast. For more valuable content, visit roofingsuccesspodcast.com. While there, check out our sponsors for exclusive offers, shop for merchandise, and sign up for our newsletter for industry updates and tips. Also, join the Roofing Success Facebook group to connect with other professionals and stay updated on the latest trends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps us continue to bring you top industry insights. The website link is in the description. Thanks for listening.